Alright, in this video I'd like to show you guys how to use the timer function within Access Database. I'll start off with a blank one here, and we'll start with the date and a long text example for maybe like a message. So the date could be today, message could be hello. Another one we'll throw in here will be hey there. What we're doing here is we're creating a table. From this table we're going to create a query. We'll go ahead and create it using the date and the message. I know I spelled date wrong, but it all works out in the end. We'll allow that to finish. There it is. So you have your date and your message. From here we're going to create a form based on that table, and we'll delete what it auto-populated, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into design and insert the subform subreport. From here we're going to select on that query that we created for the data. And there it is. We'll go ahead and go for none and then finish. Now if we save it and go into form view, you'll see here's our nice fancy little subform. What we'll do is we're going to now create an input form so that you can input data into this subform. So we'll make a modal dialog because those are fun. We'll move our buttons up here. And it's interesting because I like cancel buttons, but the cancel button doesn't really work well until you set it up to delete the current record before closing the window. So I want to close that window after I delete the record. So what it'll do is it'll ask you before closing it. Now we'll go into add existing fields. Here's our table we just made. I want the date and I want the message. You can create other little categories to insert into yours, but for simplicity purposes this is what we're going to use. We'll close that. Form 1 I'm going to rename. I actually want that to be an input. Naming structure can become important as your database grows. So we'll save this one. We're going to put a button in here so that you can input based on the button. And we're going to go to form operations, open form, and there's our input. And we'll keep it as a picture, keep it simple. We'll save it. Go build event. It's going to open the form, but I want it to go into data mode add because we're adding data for that. There's form view. There it is. We're going to add today's date. Hey, it is 7 p.m. Hit OK. You'll notice right here it didn't automatically go into our subform. There's different ways you can do this. You can set it up so that when I hit save here or OK, that it automatically refreshes this page, which is great if you're a user that just updated the database. So I'd recommend doing that. However, what if you're just a regular user of the database and you're watching it to see if there's any changes, and say somebody else in your organization makes an update? You probably want to see it when you look at the screen, and you probably don't want to have to click a button every time you want to refresh it. It's kind of like Internet Explorer. You're sitting there hitting refresh, wondering if something changed. Well, I want current data, so the way we do that is using a timer. So what's really cool here, you can right click in that detail area, go to form properties, and you'll notice right here under the events tab there's time interval and on timer. It's set by milliseconds, so I'm going to do 5,000 here for 5 seconds, so that's a pretty reasonable time. If you set it for any less than that, it might bog down your system and it might have some problems. So 5 seconds I think is fair, 10 seconds is probably fair also. So that on the timer, every 5 seconds, I want my database to do something. So you can click these little buttons here and you can do a macro, expression, or code. I like to do macros, they're usually a little bit easier. Sometimes you gotta do code though to get these to do what you want. But for this, it's pretty simple. We're just running a simple thing here. So we're going to be running a menu command, and all we're doing is doing a refresh. So that run code we can get rid of. And now it's going to run the command refresh every time that timer runs out, which is every 5 seconds. So we'll save it, close it, save it. We'll also just close it for the fun of it and reopen it. So there's table 1, and we'll notice the timer started. Down here at the bottom it's going to say calculating. When it goes from form view to calculating, that is my indication that it is refreshing or running that command every 5 seconds, like it should. You also noticed it flickers a little bit right up here at the top of the screen. That's also a good indication. And the way we can test this is we can open up this form and input something, and we'll put test, for instance, and I'll wait for it to calculate one more time and then click OK. Alright, you don't see it. Now you're going to see it refresh, and it's going to run that command, and you're going to see it. There it is. So you may not be the only one that has this database open and somebody just updated it, and guess what? You don't have to click refresh. On the timer, it's going to run that command, and you're going to get the most current information in your subquery, in your query and in your subform. So really awesome stuff. Found this to be really useful. Hope it's helpful for you. Didn't see any other videos quite like this yet, so hope this helps somebody out there wanting to set a timer and using commands. So really cool capability. Have a good one. Later.